want to thank, first of all, well, I'll start out. I was going to thank Simon, but I will go ahead and thank my constituent, the sheriff, the good sheriff from Hidalgo County, which we've known each other. He's done a lot for Hidalgo County. I also do have another constituent of mine, Carlos, the police chief Maldonado from Laredo, that has a lot of good experience, and we are very proud of these two individuals. And a little outside of Brownsville, but I thank also the chief of Brownsville. And of course, the other folks. Simon, again, thank you very much. Y'all been doing a great job. Sylvester Reyes, as you know, he's been a former patrol, chief of patrol. He was the head of the intelligence committee, a very powerful committee, and I'm very proud of Sylvester for all the work. And he's now in armed services right now, so we provide, a lot of work that he's doing there. I'm from Laredo, Texas, the largest inland port. If you take Laredo, compare it to all the ports in the state of Texas, combine them all together, doesn't match what's coming in from Laredo. We used to get about 14,000, Chief, about 14,000 trucks a day, north and south, so that I can imagine the amount of traffic that we have in Laredo. I think it's slowed down to maybe 11 or 12,000 trucks a day, those 18-wheelers on that. But Laredo, when we talk about trade is very important to us. Certainly, one of the things that I look at, I'm the former chairman of the subcommittee on Border and Maritime of the Homeland Security. I'm the ranking member. We're waiting for us to assume chairmans again when we take the majority. Sorry, no political advertisement, but when we do take the majority, we'll work on this, because it was under the majority that we passed the largest infusion of cash at one time for border security. Sylvester, myself, and the other border guys were the ones that pushed for this, because we understand the border, it is safe, but we want to make sure that it remains safe, and we put the largest amount of cash in the border. It's interesting because one of the things that we're seeing now, as the chief said, as Sylvester said, is that there's a lot of talk of folks, and I think you might have seen me in Fox News, and I've always said that I don't mind. Somebody said, "Are you going to apologize?" I said, "Sure. I'll apologize to those two generals when they apologize to the border. Then I will apologize to them, because, again, you cannot attack the border and not know it, not understand the border." For example, let me give you a couple figures that Sylvester talked about, and I've used this a lot in Homeland Security, and this is what I brought up also to folks that go up there and attack the border. If you look at the FBI statistics up here, you'll see the border. The border is the low ones. You see the Brownsville, the El Paso, the Laredos, and all that. They're the low ones. You go up to the other ones, and these are murder rates. And Detroit, I think it was your mayor asked them. Somebody asked them, "How does it feel to live in the most dangerous city?" I said, "I don't know. Ask the mayor of Detroit." And as you can see, the other areas up here. And again, you can look at murder rates. You can look at assaults. You can look at other things. And this man up here, working up here, this law enforcement folks that are working up here, and the other ones out here in the audience also, I got to say my brother over here, the sheriff of Webb County also, but the men and women that do the work on the border will tell you that these stats are very, very, very important. It was interesting that, anytime there's something that comes out, people, the ones that are trying to paint the border as an area that's very dangerous, they disregard areas. For example, the findings, so they disregarded the FBI figures. And then the other thing is, the Border Patrol just came out. I asked them to do a threat assessment of the border. And there is a classified or official use, so I have a copy if anybody's interested of one that can be put out. And basically what they said is that narcotics, as you know, what they do is they look at the threats on the border. They have the low, the moderate, significant, and high. Where the border area, at least where the Border Patrol is, the Coast Guard is at, they classified that as a moderate threat itself there. And if you look at migrant smuggling, folks feel that everybody came in through the southern part of the border. But as you know, 40% of them came in through visas, legal visas. If you look at the 9/11, they didn't come in through the southern border. They came through visa, and about 40% just overstayed their time. And if you look at it, I've always said this, I'm against the fence. It's a 14th century solution to a 21st century problem. To put 1 mile of technology on the border, it's about $1 million. And this is questions that we ask Homeland there. The latest figures that we saw was to put 1 mile of fencing, it will cost $7.5 million.
That's just to construct.
Yeah, to construction. You know, you add maintenance and all that, it's going to be a lot more. With $7.5 million per mile, 700 miles times 7.5, that would tell you that we could have saved the taxpayers' dollars, or we could have hired a lot of more of the COPS program, the Stone Garden program, money that we could have given to these men and women that have done a great job down here in the border. So again, it'll be interesting to see how the folks that disregard the FBI figures, let's see what they do with the Coast Guard also figures, and see what they come up with that, and see how they disregard it, because in their mind, everybody's wrong, and they know that there's a threat down here. I think the folks that made that report that we were up there on, the generals or retired generals said that living in the border is like living in a war zone, and 24 hours everybody's being shot at. We know that there are isolated situations. We know, Sheriff, as we talk, there are some times where they do come across, but it's not the way people have painted it, and this is why we got to be very, very careful. We're working together to make sure that we get this. If you look at even crossings, border crossings, we now have the lowest border crossing since 1972. I think the highest was about 1.6 million individuals in 1986 when illegal border crossings, all that. And I think now we're at the lowest at about 463,000. So that tells you what Border Patrol, what our efforts have done there to make sure that we do it. And I've always said this, and Sylvester and I are on the same page. You want to control the border? Pass a comprehensive immigration reform, because you know who's coming in for a temporary job and who's going out, and then you can focus on the bad guys that are coming in not for a job on that. So again, if we can pass a comprehensive immigration reform, we can do this. In conclusion, the border is very important. I know we emphasize a lot on the border, on security, but the border is important for trade. For example, every day there's about $1 billion of trade between the U.S. and Mexico. Every day, $1 billion of trade. If you look at the 4 states on the U.S. side, Arizona, New Mexico, California, and Texas, and keep in mind Texas has 1,200 out of a 2,000-mile border itself, but if you look at the 4 states, at the 6 Mexican states, put all those 10 states together, and put them as, let's say, classify them as a country, it would be one of the largest countries in the world, number one, and the economic input that we would have from those 10 would be one of the most powerful engines as a country in the whole world if you would look at the border. So instead of looking at the border as a place that it's only border security, look at it for retail, tourism, trade, and what it provides for the rest of the country itself. So again, I appreciate everything that the folks have done on that. I will be here for another probably another 20 minutes or so. I have a meeting with somebody that you might know, John Morton, who's the head of ICE, the director of ICE. One of my fellow ICE folks up here who does work for me wants to go meet him. No, I'm just kidding. So we're going to be heading off in a few minutes to go talk about issues dealing with ICE, as you know. But again, thank you, and I'll hold this for you. You got some notes. You got it.